Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, bro? How are you?
I'm good, man. I kind of like I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. Like I believe Jesus is God.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just say something. Like I've been waiting to come in here so I could just answer something. But I think I'm gonna go very shortly. But thank you for letting me in. I wanted to say something important. I'll say the reason why people don't believe that Jesus is God is for two reasons. It's because either one, they don't want to believe in him because they're either in a different religion or they want to live by their own will. Or the second reason is that they misinterpret the Bible or they lie about it. And so I wanted to answer not the last guy, but the guy before him, talking about how Jesus was a Jew. Obviously, we know that Jesus is a Jew. His family was Jewish, and obviously he was basically just the reason why he was a Jew, and the reason why it doesn't make sense to people. They're like, how can Jesus be a Jew, right? That's their question. How can Jesus be a Jew? He was really, if you really think about it, and it's funny because people they just don't use their brain. He was learning about himself. I mean, if you know like the book of Isaiah,
Mm-hmm.
he was learning about himself and he was performing miracles, and so that literally answers the question. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's him. That's why he was Jewish, and that's I mean that's the answer to the question. And he was learning about himself, and then the second thing that I wanted to say was there's no other. It's funny because it's like the Muslims say he was just a prophet. It was just a prophet. It's like there's no other prophet, quote unquote prophet, that's like him. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody could measure up to what Jesus was. He
Mm-hmm.
was the only. Like I don't even care how you look at it. If you want to call him a prophet, okay, cool. You want to call him a prophet? It's like he was the only prophet that was sinless. Every other prophet committed sin. Nobody
Absolutely.
has nobody has done what Jesus has done because that's the power of Jesus. That's how great he is, and so much more than that. Like it's like even in like even in the Quran, it's like they say that Jesus like he didn't die on the cross or whatever. He was raised to heaven by Allah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like why wasn't that the same for the messenger of the Quran,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, bro. Yeah, and just to clarify even more, Jesus being a Jew, and I didn't go down this path because the guy obviously doesn't even understand what Judaism is it was all about. So it would have been pointless. But the whole purpose of Judaism is that there's a according to the Torah is that the Abraham who was promised a seed to bless all nations, and we know that that seed comes from Genesis 3:15, where a human would crush the head of the snake, which would defeat sin. That Abraham would have the seed of the woman come through his line,
Mhm.
and it would got passed down to Isaac, and then got passed down to Jacob, and then Jacob became Israel, right? So we know
Yeah.
that it comes from the house of Jacob. Then furthermore in Genesis 49 that it would come through the line of Judah, right, which then goes through the line of David, right,
Mhm.
et cetera, and then it all goes to Jesus, right?
Mhm.
So we know that the purpose of Judaism, of this house of Israel, is that this seed would come back to save, will come to save the world from its sin, and to reunite humans, all humans, back with Christ again. That's the whole back with God again, I should say.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of Judaism. So it makes perfect sense if you look at the core of what Judaism was about. That a human would be like Jesus, and if you study the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, that this human would be God in the flesh. And
Yeah.
so just because he was a Jew following a certain religion doesn't negate the fact that he's God in the flesh, especially since the religion points all towards the direction that that God would come in human form and save humanity. So
Yeah.
it's
I
not a
think he
problem
also
that he was a Jew.
he already knew. who he was, and you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, like he
Yeah,
already
yeah.
knew
And
who
then
he was.
going into it, he was learning about himself and stuff. In Luke,
Yeah.
it does say that he grew in wisdom, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to be careful on how you say that, although it is true what you said. Because
Mhm.
people would jump and say, well, if he's God, why did he have to learn, right? Isn't he all knowing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you can get stuck. But that's why it's important to understand our theology. We believe that he is God who took on flesh, took on human flesh,
Mhm.
meaning that he has two natures. So his brain developed just like any other human's brain had to develop. That doesn't stop his divine nature from being all knowing. So, anyways,
Yeah, it's also like when they say that I know like I think the person like before that second to last person they were saying like how can Jesus like how can he die and it's like his human nature died but his divine nature didn't die.
yeah, I mean, um, natures are not capable of dying. Natures are just natures. The person only a person can die, right? Now, the definition of death is separation of soul and body. So, if this person has a body, then that person can die. Before Jesus took on a human flesh, the Son is not capable of dying because he didn't own or have a flesh, right? He didn't have flesh. But once he took on flesh, he was perfectly capable of dying, and that was the purpose, right? Is that his human body was capable to experience was made it possible for the person of Jesus to be able to experience death. So yeah, um,
Yeah, and you know like just one more thing I wanted to say was like Jesus, like the reason he came down to this earth, it's funny because it's like people they always ask that like why would he, you know, why would Jesus need to be sent to and stuff like that. It's like I just look at it as an example, you know,
hmm
like his love, you know, it's really just an example of how we should live our lives, like a model of how we should live our lives.
correct, man.
And
Yeah,
nobody could really fulfill God's what you know his promise or what needed to be done, and that's why Jesus was sent. And like I said, you know, even in the Quran, they believe in Jesus, like his miraculous birth, and they believe
hmm
that he's the Messiah, and all these things. And I think it's funny. Like, I'm just gonna wrap it up and say this: like, it's funny because in all religions, they all point to one person. That's all I'm gonna say,
all
and
right, brother.
that should tell everybody something.
All right, brother. Well, thank you, bro.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming up. Appreciate the words,
yeah,
man.
no problem, man. Thank
Appreciate
you
the
for letting me
support,
in,
bro.
man.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries, bro.
bro.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, man. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
God
Have
bless
a
in
good day.
Jesus'
God
name.
bless.